Greetings, thank you all for tuning in for another video. Just ain't glad to see me as I'm glad to see you. So, I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss another great book, a work of Plato, perhaps one of his most famous works, because it recounts one of the most significant events in the history of Socrates' life. Actually, the event which would culminate in the conclusion of Socrates' life. I think most people recall that Socrates is often regarded as the father of Western philosophy, but during his lifetime he developed a reputation for leading a somewhat unorthodox and unconventional way of life. This was the life of a philosopher, and towards the end of his life he ended up being charged with two crimes: impiety and corrupting the youth of Athens. And so the Apology recounts this story, this event of Socrates' trial, his trial in which he was sentenced to death by his fellow Athenians. And so this is the setting. Socrates is standing before several hundreds of his fellow citizens, and he is addressing the accusations against him. He is dispelling these charges and giving a defense of himself, but also giving a defense of something greater than himself. And for that reason, I think that the Apology contains one of the most inspiring and memorable speeches ever written. And perhaps I can sort of expound on that in this video. You can see by the end why I consider it to be such. If ever there was a uncertainty or doubt surrounding what Socrates believed, he conveys it in this speech. For example, I'll read directly from the Apology. This is something that Socrates is quoted as saying: "I go around doing nothing but persuading both young and old among you not to care for your body or your wealth, in preference to, or as strongly as, for the best possible state of your soul. As I say to you, wealth does not bring about excellence, but excellence makes wealth, and everything else good for men, both individually and collectively." We are aware that we have many possessions in life. Socrates believes that there is a possession that each person has which is more precious than anything, and that is one's soul. You see, while, say, money and material things, or even one's reputation, is subject to change, may perish, may fade and wither away, one's soul is of a much more immutable character and quality. It is much more enduring, and it is the duty of every person to guard, to protect, to examine and evaluate the quality and state and condition of the soul, you see, because it is the soul from which all our morals and our preference, our beliefs, our ideas, the deepest parts of who we are, that is from where they emanate, you see. And so at several occasions in the speech, Socrates makes a point to say that he could use this opportunity to say and do whatever is necessary in order to escape punishment, in order to escape death. But he thinks this to be dishonorable, you see, because, for example, hypothetically speaking, he says to his fellow Athenians, "Now you could let me go on the condition that I should no longer lead this way of life that I do, but I would say no thanks." And why? You see, because if in order to live, I must reject the truth, I must go contrary and do contrary to what I know to be right, then it is better off for me to die. You see, I would rather die with my honor and my integrity than live a coward and to live in shame, to live a lie, to be a vessel and instrument of evil. And this sort of pivots into another point that he mentions at some point in the speech. He says, "My fellow Athenians, I'm far from making a defense on my own behalf. I'm making a defense on your behalf, you see, because what you don't understand is by committing an injustice against me, you will have not done harm so much to me as much as to yourselves." And this sort of alludes to an idea that Socrates elaborated on in the Republic, which is, while it is a terrible fate to suffer at the hand of injustice, it is an even worse fate to be the instrument, to be the vessel through whom injustice operates. Another way that I've heard this articulated is that it is a terrible fate to be the slave who is beaten by the master. It is an even more terrible fate, an even graver fate, to have become the master who is beating the slave. You see, and so herein lies one of the most eloquent and impassioned defenses of living a life of integrity, living a life according to what one believes to be true. And we could go ahead and split hairs about what Socrates believed, like all of his exact ideas, and say, well, we don't agree with this and we don't agree with that, and we can raise this into question or that into question. But one thing you can't question about Socrates is his sincerity. And I personally, I can't speak on behalf of most people, but I do think that most people, regardless of whether they believe or agree with any one person's stance on a variety of topics, one thing that everybody respects universally is when somebody does not cower and back down from what they believe in. When somebody is willing to stand for what they believe in, even at the cost of being humiliated, ostracized, punished, imprisoned, or even put to death. And that is precisely what Socrates does in this instance, this scenario. And so, I think that there's a very valuable personal lesson to take from this, if it isn't abundantly clear by now. I think that we live in an era today, especially in the United States, where people are often talking about how we have a lot of weak men walking around. Like there's a society full of weak men who don't have the fortitude and the wherewithal necessary in order to defend what is right. And because you don't have a populace of people, particularly men, who are strong and willing to possess the courage necessary to defend and stand up for what is right, it jeopardizes the future of all foreseeable posterity, indeed our very own children, those who will come after us. And I think that there have been far too many generations, successively speaking, who have neglected this importance of evaluating and examining the quality and state of our souls, the state and condition of our character and our integrity. You see, it is within this speech that Socrates utters one of his most famous maxims: the unexamined life is not worth living. Like, if we're expected to conform to the status quo, to go along with the societal norms, to go along with what is easiest, to go with the path of least resistance, without considering whether or not it is right, whether it is virtuous, whether it is true or noble or honorable, then what are we doing? Like, that's not a life becoming of an excellent human being, a human being who strives to live virtuously and excellently. And so I think that the apology is a very potent reminder of the importance of examining one's life, of remembering that life is not just about these, it's not about the worldly affairs that are concerned with taking care of ourselves and avoiding danger and harm and remaining safe and doing what's easy and convenient. At some point in a man's life, he has to make a stand for what he believes in, what he knows to be right. He has to have within himself a conviction that compels him to move in the direction of justice. And without such, everything turns into oblivion. You know, this is the idea that's elaborated on in the Republic itself. It's like justice is a necessary component of a harmonious, stable, and healthy society. And without such, you can't have that. And moreover, you can't even have that without that, you can't even have a stable, harmonious, and healthy life. You know, like, it's an extremely important thing. And the primacy of the soul is something that often does not get talked about. It reminds me of a rhetorical question that was posed by Christ himself. What does it profit a man to gain the entire world and yet lose his soul? You know, it's like we live in this world that is so fixated. It teaches us to be so fixated on these very superficial things, these very unimportant things. And, you know, that, don't get me wrong, like, you know, material wealth and security and all these privileges and benefits that we derive from living in a modern first world developed country like the United States. It's all cool and all, but you know, none of that stuff is an entitlement. It's not guaranteed. We shouldn't take it for granted. We have to remember that this stuff is only possible because people who came before us, people who tried to lead a life of integrity, tried to lead a life of honor and good sound moral values, like these people were willing to die in order to stand for that, to stand for those things. And I think that it sounds very hyperbolic or extreme, but we have to be willing to do the exact same thing. It's like nothing in life is a given. Everything is a gift. And just as gifts may be received, they can be taken away. You know, just as they can be bestowed on us, they can be lost. You know, and so I think it is important to see life like a gift, like an opportunity to act in the name of good, in the name of truth, in the name of virtue. And although I don't consider myself a proponent of Socrates' philosophy per se, Plato's philosophy, although I'm a great admirer of Plato, I do think that they're onto something. If they stress the importance of living a life of integrity, then, I think they're onto something. All right. Thank you again for tuning in for another video. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, etc., please leave those down in the comment section below. As always, I'd love to hear from you guys and look forward to seeing what you have to say. Bye-bye.